Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Hier lernst du alles rund um das Thema Investor Relations, Fundraising und Kapitalmarkt. Mein Name ist Julia Stötzl und ich bin Gründerin und CEO von Investor Relations Beratung Unicorn. Unicorn ist auf einer Mission, Investor Relations für die nächste Generation einzuführen. Das bedeutet ganz konkret die Integration von digitalen Medien wie zum Beispiel LinkedIn, Podcast, Newsletter in die klassische Kapitalmarktarbeit. Mehr Informationen zu Unicorn, aber auch zum Podcast findest du unter unicornconsulting.com. Und jetzt wünsche ich euch viel Spaß beim Zuhören.
So today we have Nadine Shimozik on Street Tweets. We're super excited to have you here with us today. Just for a brief introduction, so Nadine is a tech journalist at a German newspaper called Handelsblatt, which is one of the major German newspapers specifically focusing on business content. And she is specifically writing about tech trends such as artificial intelligence, for example, but also covers early and late stage startup news. Recently, I just checked out a few of your latest articles on Fin, Personio, and many others. You also cover specifically topics such as funding rounds and general chatter around the investor world, VCs, also VC funding rounds, for example. So super interesting topics that I regularly read and enjoy. And it's such a pleasure to have you with us today on the show. And of course, all of these topics are really paying into the topics that we're covering here at Street Reads, and as we really do like to get also the journalist perspective on and not always investors and startups, you are the perfect guest for us today. So thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to our talk.
Perfect. So the topic of today will be European startup and VC investment dilemma, navigating challenges and sizing opportunities in a cooling market. So that's quite an intro, and we actually took inspiration from one of your recent articles. So maybe before we get started into the topic, give our audience a brief introduction about yourself and how you fit into that topic, essentially, into the tech topic.
As you already said, I'm Nadine Shimozik, working for Handelsblatt, and I'm a journalist. I used to work for Reuters quite a few years, and since September I'm with Handelsblatt. I enjoy very much working there. What we're going to cover today, it's the financing crunch, something that is weighing on the industry, I would say, on the investor side and on the startup side. And that's something we're not used to anymore because, during COVID, we had all these huge financing rounds and many new investors coming into the market, and that's over at the moment. And now the startups and the VC and some of the VCs have to just find a new way to cope with the new situation. So yeah, that's what we are seeing at the moment.
Hi Nadine. Well, it's such a pleasure to have you on as well, like also from my side. Maybe I'll take the opportunity to jump into the first topic,
Sure.
Exactly, like the funding. I know that you recently published an article on Handelsblatt about the reduced investment levels in the European startups and funds. If we dive a bit even further, with the fund perspective, how do you feel that the investment volume in European startups changed in the first quarter compared to the previous year? And what do you think were the factors that contributed to this shift?
I've just looked up a few new numbers, especially for April, and it's down way more. Let me just check the numbers. So I've just found out that in April the global funding reached $21 billion, and that's down 56% in a year-over-year comparison, so quite significantly. I mean, that's worldwide, but the numbers are almost always comparable, they're almost the same in Europe and in Germany. So, what are the reasons for that? There's quite a bunch of reasons there. We have the rate hikes, the interest rate hikes that are weighing on the industry. We have inflationary pressure, and the overall economy is not growing or not growing as much as it used to be. So these are points that go into the equation, and just investors are more subdued, not willing to invest in startups where they don't see that they are going to make a profit anytime soon. So startups have to change their business models. They're looking to lower their costs, and that's what we all see. I mean, people or startups lay off people. They look how to make a profit sooner. Because they have to extend their runway to just see when because they can't be sure to raise money soon. There are still some rounds, but the deal sizes came down, and so yeah, it's just complicated, and that's the whole situation at the moment. To sum it up, I would say.
Right. Yeah, that's also what, I mean, even from an outside perspective, right? That's also what we know, that I feel like last year we saw like constantly on the news, like this company raised, and now it's like much much less. Probably also a bit more healthy in that environment. But one reason that you mentioned is that actually investors are a bit more holding back, right? And they have the dry powder, but they keep holding it back. So what challenge do you see actually for venture capitalists in raising money themselves, like from their investors? And how is that playing into that problematic that startups are facing?
Well, they have problems as well. They are, especially the smaller VCs, they have problems raising money, and therefore they just try to protect their portfolio companies. They are less willing to invest in new startups, they're still like we have seen the news. High-Tech Gründerfonds, they were able to raise quite a significant fund, but they are well known out there, and they have shown over the years that they are able to give back to their investors. But there are many new funds out there that haven't shown that yet, and so others are just more hesitant to give them money. And it's something we're just at the beginning of this process, I would say. There are still funds that still have dry powder that they can give. So we are seeing a few seed rounds. We're seeing funding rounds for early stage startups, but I have the feeling that this could come down over the next months, because these especially the smaller funds will have problems raising new funds from their investors. Because something I haven't mentioned yet, because of the higher interest rates, it's just also very profitable to invest in other in other parts, and not only in startups, in VCs. So it's
other
more
assets,
risky,
right?
and
Other assets, right? Like fixed income.
other assets, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I completely see this on the corporate side, but of course I imagine that also the fund side is having the same strategy. We already touched upon a bit in the last question on the number of deals and how they're coming down since last year. But there was a talk about how there's a lot of capital that was not necessarily made use of yet from the funding side, that they were a bit waiting to push a bit the lever later when they felt more comfortable. Do you think that we're going to see this a little bit, or do you really think that the coming months and quarter will be just as much of a down in terms of the number of investments? How do you feel about this?
I don't think that we are going to see much activity. I was just recently talking to Christian Angermeier from Apparon, and he's a well-known investor, and I was asking him about his funds and about his strategy, and he was saying, well, at the moment, he would say that you need like half of the fund for your portfolio companies to just keep them alive, to protect them, and to just make sure that they will survive the recent situation. So, I mean, 50%, looking at the funds, I don't think that there's much money left for new startups, or especially for new Series B funds, financing rounds, or even Series C or Series D. So, at the end, I would say that leads to less rounds, less deals, and just... I think that's something founders already have in mind, because we are not seeing so many new startups coming up, and people or founders are just more hesitant to start a new business.
Yeah, super interesting, very valid points. It's also what we heard kind of from the investor point of view, and also what we see on the startup point of view. So we touched upon that actually first-time funds are struggling to raise money because they don't have the traction yet, they don't have the proof of concept yet, essentially. But larger funds, you mentioned High Tech Gründer Fund, for example, might be a bit more successful in doing so still. What have you seen? What are good examples of funds that have raised, and why do you think they were successful? Maybe you can give a few examples that you heard or people that you spoke to. I also saw that HV Capital raised again recently, right? So maybe you can give a few.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there are so many more out there. HV Capital, High Tech Gründer Fund, and now I just don't have any more names there yet. But well, what I know from talking to them is that they Speed Invest, they had a fund last year, so a new fund. All of the investors I was talking to, all of them, they were telling me that they had more trouble, that they needed more time to raise the money they raised at the end, and that they all had these troubling situations where they were in talks, and the investor of the LP almost said, yeah, I'm going to do that, I'm going to give you this amount of money, and then it was less, or only the half, or at the very latest point they said, oh, I'm not going to do that because, well, I can't, I don't have the money myself, we are struggling as well, or I'm just going to invest in another asset and not in a VC. So I mean, it's problematic because there are not very many public listings, and the whole exit activity, I mean, it's so subdued and so down. You have to think long term, and that's what all the investors are telling the startups and their LPs. But on the other hand, I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen over the next years. And if there are no public listings and no IPOs, then we just have to find a way how this is all going to be profitable.
Yeah. I mean, it's this amount of uncertainty in the market. It's something that I personally hadn't seen yet. And as you said, like, what to do next is more of a brace and survive kind of mode. But I mean, coming back to what you just brought up, the exit opportunities for startups. As you said, we're not seeing many exits. We're not seeing any IPOs, if any, barely, just a few this year with very reliable and very well-known names. How do you think this is going to continue evolving in Europe? I mean, you said that you don't see this happening, but then what do you expect the companies will do? Just keep aiming for profitability, come back to other kind of funds, other types of products to raise money. How will investors gain from this opportunity? What's your take on this?
Well, overall, I'm quite optimistic myself. I would say I'm an optimist. So there are some points out there that are still good, and I would say just looking at AI and what's going on there, and that there are AI startups or AI related startups that are able to raise money, like OpenAI. I mean, look at that. So there's still so much movement in the market, and technology is evolving, and there are startups showing that themselves. So yeah, there will there's a lot of stuff happening. So it's really interesting being in the market. And there are startups that are doing quite well. I mean, we have seen WeFox, they raised new money despite all the difficulties. It was, I guess, less than they originally planned to raise, but still it's a new round and they gained new investors. So there are many positive things going on. So just let's say there's that. And I just recently wrote an article about climate tech, and so there were many climate tech startups that raised money over the last years, and over last year, and so yeah, there is still stuff going on. So that's good. So now I'm lost a bit about the whole question, but well. So at least, hopefully, I answered a part of the question.
Yeah, take from this that you're an optimist.
Yes,
yeah, we love that.
We love an optimist. Actually, we interviewed someone earlier this week for the second episode who also said he's an optimist. So I think we're attracting always the right people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it seems like really, I mean, what you're saying, right? It's either the right business models or the right founder stories that still are able to access capital markets. And maybe it's also, good that not everyone has access anymore to capital, to real capital. It's a much more profound story you need to have to raise money.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are people out there really saying, okay, it's quite a good development on one side, because it's more healthy, and just that you really have that you need a proof of concept, and that you need a good business model that somehow is able to show that there's traction and revenue, and at the end maybe a profit even. So yeah, that I would say for investors and the whole industry, it's good. On the other hand, I mean, for us journalists, it was just great writing stories like about Flink or gorillas and how they became unicorns so fast.
Well, there might be more stories about those, right? I mean,
absolutely, yes. And I mean, that's another thing. I mean, we all know that they are trying to raise new money, and I mean, there's no news yet, so that's problematic, I would say, for them. Yeah.
Let's touch upon one topic that we haven't touched upon as a factor yet for kind of the more disruptive market environment for startups, which is the Silicon Valley Bank, or the collapse of that. There also have been some other banks that have been kind of in the trenches, but how would you assess the impact that this had on specifically the German or European startup scene? I think I remember correctly that there was an article where you interviewed a couple of CFOs and founders and how they dealt with that and what they did a few hours after that happened. So maybe you can give us a bit of background on that.
Yeah. That's already a few weeks back. So at the end, I would say it worked out pretty well for Europe and for Germany, because we didn't rely so much on the services of Silicon Valley Bank, and so there weren't so many effects of the collapse, and everyone is quite relieved that that didn't happen. What I guess all the founders did is that they tried to broaden their their system, their banking system, and they have more accounts now. And I guess they try to have that this way for the future. So that's one point. And on the other hand, well, it all plays into the cooled down into the financing crunch. I mean, that's also another risk out there. People are more hesitant. They know there might be some banking risks or some more failing banks out there, and that's just another problem. Besides all the other problems that they are already facing. Yeah, I would say it's not the it's not the huge dilemma some of us feared a few weeks back, but still it's something that went wrong this year. So yeah, and I remember talking to a founder who said, well, it was just looking like it's going to be a bit better, and then Silicon Valley Bank happened. So that was another thing where we had to face and we had to manage. So yeah, just...
They keep on coming, as they say.
Yes,
but
indeed.
I mean, positive sides. Yeah. So there is one point that you raised earlier that I'm super interested in. I mean, you mentioned both climate tech, but also AI as like trends that we're seeing growing in the coming year, kind of big investments, big words coming up. You have so much take on this, you speak to so many people. What do you think are going to be the driving factors for these two fields? I mean, what's going to make the next big unicorn in those? We want the new story.
oh my god. You'll find them in Handelsblatt over the next months. keep reading.
Will do.
Yeah, well, climate tech. We just I think we have a few really great startups in Germany, like Enpal. It's already a unicorn, but it just keeps on growing, which is just great. Yeah, and then we have Sunfire in Dresden that are doing very well. Solar as well. So these are the ones probably all of us have already heard about. But there are these smaller ideas, smaller startups that I really dig, and I find that they have so many interesting ideas. All these Carbon One and all the others out there. That's one point where I'm very hopeful that we're going to see new startups coming up and others that just keep on growing, which would be just great because it's something that, we have to solve the climate crisis, and it's just great that there are startups out there being innovative and finding new ways to hopefully solve this crisis. On the other hand, AI, I mean, that's just not only a buzzword. It's happening. I've just seen that there are also huger AI-related startups in the US that are planning to go public via SPAC, which just means that
already?
Let me look up ones I haven't heard of before, but they are named like iLearning Engines, Airchip AI, that's a developer of AI-driven video management platforms, or just one platform, I guess. So that means that money is flowing back into the system, that new startups are popping up, and that's just. We are at the very basic beginning of this whole new AI-related startup field. So, something to be optimistic about, and there will be money for that because it's just the way it is. When there's a trend, there will be investors. Yeah,
very true. Very true. We do want to close with two last questions, in fact. So we always try to give our audience a little bit back from our guests, some really practical advice and insights. So the first one will be my question, which will be, obviously, all the startups want to be in Handelsblatt. And as I'm myself a PR advisor, you know, even it's not always that easy, right? So sometimes you also rejected me already, Nadine.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember.
Right? Bird.
No, very polite. No, but so what tips would you give to startups that do want to be published in Handelsblatt or any other any media outlet? How to approach a journalist? How to pitch your story right?
Well, find the news and that's very complicated and very easy. We are not interested in pre-seed or seed rounds because there are so many startups out there. So we just can't manage to write about them. But if you have a story to tell, and if it's something maybe other readers haven't heard about yet, and if it's interesting, we definitely try to cover, and maybe not next week, but overall we have these trend stories, and if it's just interesting, then call us, or better not, send us mails. And so
you want to give your mobile number here?
Yeah, psst, psst, psst. It's so busy already. Yeah. But that's my tip. I personally really try to answer all the mails, which is a struggle, I have to admit. But I really try to be in touch with startups and investors, and to just being available. But on the other hand, I mean, we are journalists, and there are some facts or some we just have to stay neutral and just have to look what's really have to look for the really interesting stories.
And then one tip that I will ask you, more for the VCs and startups out there. How do you think they can adapt their strategies to succeed this current European investment climate and to grasp these opportunities that we talked about in the last half hour?
Investors or startups? Or both? Like
both.
Okay.
Can we do both?
Hopefully I can answer this. I just have the feeling that already putting yourself out there and managing this whole crisis, everyone, like startups and investors, are gaining so much more knowledge. It's just a more competitive environment than maybe during the Corona crisis. But still, I have the feeling the ones that are getting out of the crisis, they will be more healthy and maybe even better suited to become unicorns or to just stay ahead of their competitors. So just look at Airbnb or Uber, all these startups that were founded during a crisis. They somehow found a way to succeed. So hopefully there will be many startups doing the same that founded maybe last year, this year. So I'm just really interested in what's coming out of this crisis.
Absolutely. There's, as you said, there's so much learning that can drive to a better place than you were 1 year before in reality.
Yeah. Indeed.
Okay. So we have actually come to the end of our half hour. Well, I would like to say thank you, Nadine, for joining us and giving us so many interesting tips, tricks, and insights also from the journalist world, which is always capturing so many points of views and so much perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Speak soon. Hope we meet again soon.
Yes, absolutely. That would be lovely. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
So, wir sind jetzt auch schon wieder am Ende des Podcasts angekommen. Ich hoffe, dir hat diese Episode gefallen. Wenn du Hilfe brauchst bei irgendwelchen Kapitalmarktthemen oder digitalen Investor Relations Themen, dann melde dich gerne unter unicornconsulting.com und buch dir einen ersten freien Consulting Call. Wir würden uns ebenfalls darüber freuen, wenn du uns auf Social Media folgst, zum Beispiel YouTube, TikTok, Instagram oder auch LinkedIn, oder wenn du einfach einen Like da lässt. Ich wünsche euch alles Gute und bis zum nächsten Mal. Eure Julia. Ciao.